In this lecture, I just wanted to give you a couple of tips on helping your kids to handle strong emotions, just so that they don't have to grow up with these same ideas around repressing and ignoring emotions that most of us grew up with. So the most important thing to get across to your children is that all emotions are acceptable, even though certain behaviors may not be. So if we're going to limit a behavior, for example, your child may feel really angry and hit her brother over the head. What we're going to express to that child is that the anger is okay. You can understand why she might be angry, but hitting someone over the head is not something that we do in our family. And I usually put it like that to children because in other families certain things may be okay that are not okay in your household. So we say to a child, in our family we don't do that. Now, the other thing is to never negate the current emotion, and that's part of expressing to children that all emotions are acceptable. So we never say to a child, oh, don't be scared, there's nothing to be scared about. Or don't be sad, it's all going to be okay. We're telling a child not to feel what they're already feeling. So the thing is just to express that back to them. And you can see that they reflect the emotion back to them. I can see that you're feeling really scared right now. Or I can see that you are furious at the moment. The child needs to know also that they are not their emotions, or behavior for that matter, that they are always loved and lovable. So no matter how intense that emotion might get, the child is loved or lovable. And you can start this right from when they're infants. They start with those temper tantrums, and just by having your presence there, if you can sit with them and allow them to have that emotion, to go through it from beginning to end. You don't have to do anything. If the child's thrashing about, you don't have to hold them. But if you can hold them, you do. You just hold the child and you breathe. You find that calm within yourself. So don't get drawn into their emotion. You keep your own emotional center. But by being there and by your presence being there, the child can see that you're not running away from them. You're not shouting at them. You're not rejecting them because they are having a strong emotion, that they are always loved and lovable. So once we've reflected this emotion back to the child, we can also empathize. We can explain how we feel strong emotions. Perhaps the child is angry. You can say, well, I totally understand. Just yesterday someone did X, Y, and Z to me, and I also felt angry. Or let them know how you felt when you were a child. Maybe something similar happened to you. So relate to them that other people also feel those kind of emotions, and that's quite normal. It helps with this to let them see you experience strong emotions from time to time and come out on the other side of that. Now, a lot of us think that we need to hide our emotions from our children. So when we're experiencing intense grief or anger, we do it behind closed doors. And this is actually unhealthy for children because they need to see you go through that you can have a very, very strong negative emotion and that you survive it. And if they never have a role model for that, if they never see someone go through something hectic and come out the other side, then the next time they have a very strong emotion, and this often comes up when they're adolescents, is that they have a very strong emotion, but they've never seen someone else go through that. So then they start to think there's something wrong with me. And they think, I will never come out the other side of this because no one has ever had such a strong emotion. And especially teenagers tend to be somewhat egocentric. So they're focusing in on their pain as the worst thing that's ever happened. And they've never seen somebody else deal with something like that. And this is often where we have things like teen suicide, where children just feel there's no way they'll come out the other side. So when they've seen us go through these things, then somewhere they have a reference for that in their minds. And when they go through that, they will know how to cope with it. And then with little children, we can brainstorm acceptable ways to express their emotions when they're calm. So as we said in the beginning, all emotions are acceptable, but certain behaviors may not be. So what we want to do with the children is help them to find ways to express that emotion. As adults, we're going to sit with the emotion, we're going to feel it. But a small child is not going to be able to sit with intense anger and feel it and breathe through it. So we need to help them to express that energy in constructive and acceptable ways. And I really find that if children come up with these ideas, they're much more likely to put them into practice. So a brainstorming session would go something like this. You say, my darling, yesterday you were so angry, you just wanted to hit your brother over the head. I totally get that. And the thing is, in our family, we don't go around hitting other people on the head. So let's take that anger and let's see, we're going to come up with some fantastic ideas of what you can do when you feel so angry that you want to hit and you can't hit your brother. And then you get out a pen and paper, and especially with little children, they love it. If you're going to write down what they say, then it must be super important. So you get a pen and paper and you say, let's come up with some ideas together. So what ideas do you have? And they might start telling you things. We never judge any of the ideas that they give us. We write down everything. You can add in some ideas. You can say, well, maybe we could get a punching bag and you could hit the punching bag instead of hitting your brother. Or maybe we could get a hammer and a coconut and you could smash the coconut with the hammer. We can come up with ideas. But the majority of the ideas should come from the child. And then we write everything down, and the reason that we do that is we don't want to limit the creative process. All of those ideas, even if they're quite strange or they seem bizarre and you would never be able to put them into practice, but they may lead to an idea that you can put into practice. For example, what I did with my daughter, and she was having a similar problem where she was very angry with her sister and she wanted to hit her sister, and we were brainstorming, and she said, well, what I could do is I could fly to the moon. So I said, okay, that's fantastic. Write it down, fly to the moon. And then when we came to evaluate the ideas later, what we looked at was, well, what was the intent behind flying to the moon? And the intention was to get as far away from her as she could, to have a quiet place. And then we were able to create a moon-like environment at home. So take the ideas that come from the brainstorming, see how you can make practical solutions out of them, and your children are much more likely to actually put these into practice if they've come up with them themselves. So these are just some tips for helping kids with strong emotions. Have some fun, find out what works for you, but most importantly, allow them to feel what they're feeling.